Welcome to Book Talks, where you get to meet the authors of Two Sisters Writing and Publishing and hopefully open a new chapter in your life to live bigger, better, and bolder. I'm Elizabeth Ann Atkins, and today I'm so excited to have Mort Meisner back because his book is a blockbuster. It's a bestseller, and he's got some really exciting news to share tonight. So welcome, Mort.
Hey, good to be here, Elizabeth, always. And we're real excited about the book.
Yes, excellent. Well, first of all, Enough to Be Dangerous, as you can see over Mort's shoulder, launched on October 1st, and it made many bestseller lists on Amazon in different categories. It's just been performing very well. Rave reviews, 5 stars. And so people are coming to you and just telling you that it touched their lives and inspired them. What's this experience been like for you, Mort?
It's been a roller coaster. I mean, obviously, I am thrilled and proud to have collaborated with my writer, Stephanie Roop, as well as you and Catherine at Two Sisters. I think that's been great. But it really has, with the nuts and bolts, it's really caused a cascade of emotions. Euphoria for being able to tell a lot of my really proprietary, unusual, crazy, outside the box life stories, TV news stories, also stories from rock and roll. But also it's brought back a lot of life challenges that some of my own doing and some perpetrated on me and against me in the form of physical, sexual abuse. But it's a book. There's really something for everyone. And as Huel Perkins, an anchorman here in Detroit, wrote, fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy ride. He's right.
Absolutely. Right. The book will make you laugh. It will make you cry. It will make you cringe.
For sure.
Right. And it's so...
I was just going to say, in fact, it's not only caused some rekindling with friends, but kindling, if that's a word, with people that don't know me, who could relate. But an incredible story is I have a cousin by the name of Morris Deutsch who lives in DC. He's an immigration attorney. His father and grandfather, who are my relatives as well, are pictured in the book. They paid for me to go through college.
I just love that story.
For those of you who have not read the book yet, it talks a lot about my personal life and being evicted numerous times as a little boy. And my cousin grew up in a home where there were millionaires, only he didn't know it because they were humble. They were wonderful, caring, giving people. And he called me up practically crying and said, geez, Cousin Mort, I'm so sorry. None of us knew. Well, obviously his dad and mom knew, but he didn't. He said, I didn't even know we were millionaires because we lived very humbly. And in my house, there was no delineation about who was rich and who was poor. So it's even caused me to be able to reconnect with a cousin that I've rarely seen over the years. And I'm very happy and very proud of that.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's so inspiring, Mort. So another thing that I've noticed is that the stories that didn't make it into the book have also inspired tremendous responses. So for example, the Jewish News just did a beautiful story about you, and they focused on the angle of being Jewish and some of the traumas that you endured because of the abusive family experience that you were having.
Yeah, they did. I mean, there's for those of you who are from the Detroit area, in Oak Park, there was a synagogue that is no longer there. It's in Farmington Hills now, called B'nai Moshe. And it was really known as the Hungarian synagogue because it was built with Hungarian dollars. In fact, the Deutsches, who I just mentioned, are the ones that built it.
Wow.
And they had a rabbi there. Well, it's not nice to say things about the dead. I'm going to anyway, because maybe I'm not nice. His name was Moses Lehrman, and he was no Moses, I'll tell you. He and his wife were mean people who I would classify as what I call four-flushers. They were just there to kiss the asses of the people, my relatives and others who paid their salary. And they were very mean people. And in fact, reduced my late father to tears when they beat him up verbally and chastised him for not really having saved enough money to give me a, quote, proper bar mitzvah, whatever that is. And that was really talked about extensively in the Jewish news. And for those people that have not read it, I would encourage them to do so.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's just beautiful. I can put a link in the description box for this video.
That's great.
Yeah. So Mort, lots of really wonderful responses and lots of interviews that you're having. You've got some exciting news to announce.
Yeah, I do. I am honored. The executive producer of the nationally syndicated show, Extra, which has 5 to 10 million viewers a day, depending on the day, interviewed me a couple of weeks ago. That's Billy Bush's show. I was interviewed by Jennifer Lamers for the body of the interview. That story is in the final edit stage and will likely air sometime this week. They just did not have a day yet, but moments before I talked with you, I got off the phone with the senior producer. So they're working on it, and it's going to be a good story.
Oh my gosh. Well, we'll definitely have to announce to everybody, all your fans and our viewers, when it's going to air so everybody can tune in and watch it. That is so exciting. My gosh. But your experience as a big city newsroom executive and now as a TV news talent agent, you have such a deep understanding of current events and media trends. And you were very touched by President Obama's quotes on 60 Minutes during his recent interview about how it's the responsibility of the local media to educate in an objective manner the citizens about democracy and voting to protect our democracy. Can you talk about that message?
Yeah, I was very moved. You know, far be it from me to judge President Obama, and he doesn't need me to sing his praises. But look, he's a brilliant guy with a social conscience. He's probably going to be a greater ex-president even than he was president, if for no other reasons, you know, Mitch McConnell and the Republicans roadblocked him at every move. Having said that, President Obama is right. One of the problems with local news is it's still too many fires, too many sex assaults, too many murders, too many dump truck accidents. The problem with doing TV stories about politics is often they're not very visual. So they need to find creative ways to tell the story. But President Obama continues to be right when he says all politics are local. And local news needs to find better ways, print as well, and radio, to story tell what the hell is at stake. And I thought, for me, it was one of the great takeaways from that interview.
Yeah. So the danger of this non-objective local and national news reporting is that the commentators' opinions are inserted, the journalists' opinions are inserted, and that sways public opinion in very dangerous ways. Can you talk about the importance of being objective in the traditional manner of journalism?
Well, it is, you know, and watching Fox News as a poster boy for this, happily, they have put Chris Wallace, who's a great journalist, really in charge of editorial decision-making. Fox has long been run by Rupert Murdoch. Now really one or two of his sons are running it. And while the news division is going towards the middle, you still have demagogues like Tucker Carlson, Sean Hannity, and Laura Ingraham. And I nearly fell out of my chair watching the news last night, a promo that showed Hannity, Carlson, and Ingraham, and it said fair and balanced. Well, Jesus, they're not news people, they're commentators. So they said fair and balanced news you can count on. Those aren't news people. The problem is the sheep that listen to and watch them think what they're saying is fact. Look, the other side is no different. Don Lemon on CNN, he's really more of a commentator, not a news guy. And I think local news can and should do a better job of letting people know what the facts are, as because there are no alternative facts, contrary to what Donald Trump and his band of gypsies who are being thrown out on their asses from the White House. Contrary to what they think, there is no such thing as alternative facts. There are facts, and then there are lies and alternative information. And I think local news and national news can, if they can devote the resources, can come up with creative ways to report the facts. It's really important. It's why the news media is under fire, rightfully so.
I get it, but Mort, how do you stop the tidal wave of that trend that's so awful? I mean, I have a master's in journalism from Columbia, and this whole idea of fake news, I still can't wrap my mind around it because there's truth and there's lies, like you just said.
Yeah.
So how do we stop it on a local level?
The way to stop it, well, one way is, of course, viewers need to vote with their pocketbooks. And they, believe me, general managers and station managers respond when people are saying, we're no longer going to watch your station because we not only that, we won't buy the products you advertise. That's one way. Citizens groups can band together and request meetings with the general manager. They'll meet these days by Zoom, probably, but they'll meet. And they will respond. They really will respond. If you just call a phone answerer, they'll blow you off. But look, if you're watching in Detroit, specifically, if you call Mike Murray or email him, Murri at WXYZ, Greg Easterly at WJBK, Marla Drutz at WDIV, and for radio, Debbie Kenyon at WWJ News Radio 950. They are my friends. They will respond. And you may not get the answer you want right away. You got to be a dog on a bone.
I love that. So real people, everyday people can take action and make change. So what is at stake, Mort? What is at stake in our democracy if our media doesn't turn back to traditional journalistic values of objectivity?
Well, what's at stake is they're marginalizing themselves. And it isn't just because Donald Trump's fake news BS. The media is marginalizing themselves because people don't trust them. Some of it is deserved, some of it is not. They got to work harder and promote it's not enough to promote that we're giving you the real facts, straightforward, straight to you. That sounds good. I just made it up.
I like it.
It's not enough to promote it. You got to deliver it. And I had a saying when I ran newsrooms: tell them what you're going to tell them, then tell them, and then tell them what you told them. And the tell them what you told them is a proof of your performance. We need more of that. And when commentary is being delivered, whether it's on a national or network level, it should be labeled on the screen, commentary. The reason they don't do that is the commentary is interwoven into the news stories, and it needs to be separated.
Yeah, like when you read the newspaper, it says op-ed, opinion, and editorial.
Right.
And then the news section is separate. And if there's an op-ed inserted, like the New York Times does this all the time on page 1, they'll have an opinion op-ed piece, but it says from the opinion board of the Times.
That's correct. That's
It
for
should
sure.
be clearly labeled so people understand. I love this mission. I'm so happy that you are echoing what President Obama advocated on 60 Minutes, because it's so disturbing to watch the news and say, wait a minute, what? And sometimes even if it's somebody, a journalist who's saying what I want to hear, it still causes some discomfort in my gut. Like, wait a minute. Now they're going to tell me what's supposed to be the facts. How do I know where the opinion ends and the facts begin?
It's impossible, without them taking those measures.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Wow, this is really, really powerful. Can you talk a little bit more about your quest to expose racism and sexism in newsrooms based on the things that you witnessed and attempted to make a positive change to correct?
Well, yeah, on the sexism front, management of TV stations and news networks came to the table late. White men largely were the news anchors. And then at some point, they brought along eye candy, very attractive women who may have been smart and may not have been smart, often didn't have journalistic credentials, let alone pedigrees. That's gotten mostly better. What hasn't gotten better fast enough, although it has gotten somewhat better, is how Blacks and Hispanics are treated in our industry, particularly men. We still see a hell of a lot more women of color in news than we do men of color.
Mhm.
And I think pure and simple, management in the past has often been afraid of Black men. What if we hire him and he's no good and he sues the station? What if he has a black chip on his shoulder? All this irrational BS that was wrong then, and it's wrong now. Some newsrooms I worked in even referred to Black reporters as garbage men. There was one in every newsroom, and they were generally the low man on the totem pole and would get the quote garbage stories that they thought they could handle because they felt wrongly that they couldn't handle more complicated hard news stories. And that was a disgrace. It's gotten better. I want to do a shout out because NBC News promoted one of their general managers from Philadelphia. His name is Anzio Williams, to be vice president for diversity. And it's no BS position. It's no vice president of doorknobs. He's going to the NBC owned stations around the country to look firsthand at the diversity or lack of. It's not a mission where he's going in to say, let's fire all the white people. It's not like that. It's doing better now and doing better in the future. Every network needs to do that, and they need to give that job teeth and the ability to make decisions and to hire qualified people of all ethnicities, religions, races, backgrounds. There was a time when I worked in Chicago many years ago where the NBC station hired a guy from WJBK in the 80s named Tom Korzanowski. And when Tom got to Chicago, they wanted to change his name. He wanted to change his name. And they said, no, we have the largest Polish population outside of Warsaw, so we want you to keep that name. So that in itself was an indicator that the media knew they had to do better, but hiring people just because they're Polish or just because they're Asian doesn't make sense. Hire people because they're qualified and they happen to be of a persuasion that also reflects the diversity of the audience in that city or nationally.
Oh, excellent, excellent. So things are improving,
They are, but long way to go. I mean, the biggest area where improvement needs to happen in local and national news is management. It's still a lot of fat, bald white men chomping on cigars. There's not enough women at all. At WXYZ in Detroit, you do have a female news director. That's great. You also have one at WDIV. That's great. So 2 out of 3 ain't bad, but around the country, it's got to be done better.
So where does newsroom leadership come from? Is it through the ranks of, do you start as a writer and become a producer or do you go from being an anchor to a manager? How does that work?
Usually you got to move out to move up. I was a good example. I started as a peon, a production assistant in Detroit. I moved up to managing editor, which is a decision maker. But I would have been roadblocked. That's why I went to Chicago. I always say that news talent generally make the worst managers. Talent generally doesn't segue well into management just because it's not how they're programmed. But I think management, the way NBC is doing it now, can grow people from within, and if not move up at a specific station, can move to another station.
Wow, that's really powerful. Well, you sure share a lot of great stories about all the stations that you worked in Detroit, St. Louis, and Chicago, and your life in rock and roll. I encourage everybody to read this book. It's so inspiring because Mort has survived things that would have crushed most people, and there's multiple things that he survived: cocaine addiction, abuse, all kinds of challenges in life, and he made it. Look at him now.
And I'm still trying to survive.
I love it. But listen, we have some other news about the format of the book. You can now not only read it in hardcover and paperback, but you can also read the ebook and listen to the audiobook. So there's
it's cool. If you go to Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, for those of you who are in Detroit, I love patronizing bookstores, because if we don't patronize them, they're going to go away.
Yeah.
And I certainly, the book is available at the Book Beat in Oak Park.
Awesome
Shout out
store.
to them. They
Yes.
sell tons of books. And Paper Trail on Washington in Royal Oak. We need books. We need to read. Even if you don't read my book, buy President Obama's book. Buy an Edgar Allan Poe terrifying book. Read, and not just the damn internet.
No. Reading is such a magical experience. I mean, take it from me. I'm writing and publishing books, and I'm reading all the time, and it just transforms your life. And I have this book, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, and I've had it for like 20 years. And it's like literally falling apart because I read it so much. But Mort, your book is so good. It's like there's eye-popping moments, and your stories about all the rock stars are so fun.
David the collaboration we had with two sisters writing and publishing was great. I mean, it was great because you're brilliant, your sister's brilliant, you're forward thinking, you always plot the next move. And really the success of my book is only successful because of the collaboration with Stephanie Roop, the writer, and Catherine Greenspan and Elizabeth Atkins. And that's our team. I mean, certainly there's other people, but we were the glue, and couldn't have done it without any of you.
Thank you, Mort. It's an absolute honor. And you've been blogging throughout this whole experience for several months, and you wrote the most beautiful blog post about how it takes a team to birth a book.
It does. I mean, it was like having a baby, only this took 2.5 years.
I really recommend that you go to Mort's website, mortmeisner.com, so you can read his blog posts, including that one. The new one, you're welcome. The latest blog post is about President Obama's statement about local news and democracy and our informed responsibility to stay informed in an objective manner. So, Mort, is there anything else about the book that you'd like to share right now?
You know, other than the fact, the important part about reading and everything else, I just think all of our lives have stories. They're all a story. And you have a story, I have a story, the milkman has a story, and every story may not be a book, but every story deserves to be told and listened to.
Yes.
And that's what I think. And I think we'd end on that. Everyone has a story. And if I could go in the Wayback Machine, I would change a hell of a lot of things that I did. But I can't. Yesterday's a canceled check. But I certainly try to live my life differently, but I still make a lot of mistakes.
Beautifully said. We always advocate that people write down their story of their life because Even if you don't publish it, it's your story, it's your life, and no one can tell it the way you do. And your family will cherish it forever. And that's one motivation that you had for writing your memoir, that you wanted your kids to know the truth about you.
That's true. That's true.
Well, Mort, it's always an absolute delight to talk with you and for you to share your wisdom with our viewers. And we wish you the utmost success with the book. And your extra interview will be soon airing across the country.
And we're anticipating possibly Inside Edition, Tamron Hall, Kelly and Ryan. We're talking to all of them because they're interested in what the book has to say.
That is amazing. It's such a powerful message, or messages.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, Mort, you are the best. I appreciate you immensely, and we will talk with you again very soon.
God willing, stay tuned. Happy Thanksgiving. Sending you all my love. You're a beautiful person inside and out.
Thank you, Mort. Thank you.
God bless you.
God bless you too, and happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
And to all of you, thank you for joining us today on Book Talks, where you get to meet the authors of Two Sisters Writing and Publishing and learn all their insights, instructions, and inspiration that can help you open a new chapter in your life. I'm Elizabeth Ann Atkins. I'm so grateful that you joined us here. If you missed the live cast, you can watch the replay. So check out the description box and please do like, share, subscribe, and comment. Immensely grateful for your support, and I hope that you've learned something today. So stay tuned for the next edition of Book Talks here on the Two Sisters Writing and Publishing channel. Meanwhile, be well, happy reading, and happy writing.